This is All India Radio. In the program Insights, now we bring you a discussion on Supreme Court verdict on women's right to abortion, a boost to the rights of women. The participants are Neera Mishra, expert on women issues, and Aditi Tandon, journalist.
In a historic judgment yesterday, the Supreme Court of India for the first time granted legal recognition to marital rape under any Indian statute. The Supreme Court actually, while looking at abortion rights of married and unmarried women, not only did away with the distinction between the two categories by categorically holding that abortion rights, safe abortion rights, should be available to women irrespective of their marital status. The court also very strongly observed that the pregnancy of a married woman due to forcible sex by her husband must be treated as rape under the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. You know, Neera ji, that recently India passed a path-breaking abortion law doing away with the 1971 Parent Act, which was kind of regressive, and actually created 7 categories of exceptions where women could terminate their pregnancies beyond the previously legally allowed period of 20 weeks. So now, even beyond 20 weeks, women are allowed to abort up to 24 weeks. How do you see the Supreme Court judgment in the light of women's rights and safe abortion practices?
Namaskar to everybody. This is a landmark historic decision and a very positive step in bringing about not just gender parity, but parity between women of all categories, whether they are married or unmarried. And one of the important things, as you just said, that this judgment upholds the constitutional fundamental right of equality between married and unmarried women. Very importantly, it upholds the right of a woman to her body and sex and to her desire to have or not to have a child. That is, no forcible pregnancy will be allowed. Point in this judgment is that the woman herself has the right to sign. She does not have to take the consent of her family. Now, all these are very progressive steps to making women feel that yes, they are an individual who have all rights to take decisions to be and to live the life that they want to live.
Right, absolutely. Also, the fact that the Indian Supreme Court has made such a progressive comment yesterday on such a ticklish and a complicated issue, just months after the United States Supreme Court actually did away with the constitutional right of abortion for millions of American women, and that became an issue of extreme debate across countries. How do you also look at the fact that this is the first time that the Supreme Court has signaled that it might actually take a very strong view of the existing exception to marital rape under the Indian Penal Code, the Section 375 IPC? You remember, Neera ji, that this issue was also discussed by the Justice J.S. Verma Committee,
Correct,
which was formed after the horrific rape of a girl in Delhi in 2012. And yet, no clarity emerged on the issue, and even the lawmakers have differed. On marital rape, what is it that you say?
See, marital rape, again, as I said, a very landmark decision, and I would like to just point something very interesting. As you remarked about the USA judgment, India from time immemorial, if we go back to ancient times, has given complete equality to women on the way they want to live or use their body or their sexual freedom, as I would say. So in terms of marital rape, this is a landmark decision because we are very clearly, the Supreme Court is saying that the woman is not your property. You do not have a right to use her body as a possessive property. You have to have the consent of her. And again, it is bringing out the fact that it's time men realize that living together, having a child, family, etc. has to be a consensual, loving relationship and not a force by authority that I am a male and I have every authority over you. Now, these are very, very important points, which is reminding us of the way we have always treated women as an equal right from ancient times. And I think they're coming back. And I think women in foreign countries, like in USA and Western, First of all, they took very long to come back to giving equality to women to even vote. And now they are again going back to regressive steps, which is, I think India has to play a leading role here, and our Supreme Court is doing a wonderful job.
Also, the very fine point in the judgment, Neera ji, yesterday was that besides removing the distinction between married and unmarried women, in the MTP Act, the Supreme Court has also said that trans people are entitled to abortion rights, trans people as in biological women who identify as men, and also minors.
I think this is also a very significant and a very remarkable and progressive step, because even those people have the right on themselves, on their body, on their sex. And also, in terms of minors, I think there is a little minors and people who have a mental or any disorder, retardation, they have to take the consent of somebody from the family, which is a very important thing, because a person who is not mentally fit or physically disabilitated, then that person needs a help. But transgenders, yes, they need to be treated as equals, because whatever God has given to men and to women, both of them have an equal right to use it as they feel and as they wish to share, not by force.
Okay, absolutely. You see, also the judgment, when you look at it and read it comprehensively, it says a lot about protection of the privacy of minors. What is happening in the country these days is that the identity of minors who are seeking abortion services often gets, leaked by the police or the doctors. But the Supreme Court has yesterday clearly directed that any minor who's pregnant after consensual sex shall not be disclosed identity-wise in any criminal proceeding under the Prevention of Children from Sexual Offences Act. And the law itself mandates doctors inform the police when a minor approaches for abortion. But the court has clearly said that it is the responsibility of the state authorities to ensure that the identity of that child seeking abortion has to be protected.
See, the state is not only our lawgiver, the state is also the protector of our individual freedom and also our social status. Now, the moment that identity is revealed, there's a social stigma. We still, every society goes through this process, whether it is a married woman or an unmarried woman or minor especially. If that identity is revealed, it is very surprising that the police or the state were not getting this hint when it was revealed that a girl's identity should not be revealed if there is a case of rape or any sexual assault on her. The same should definitely have applied to minors, and it's a very good step that the Supreme Court has now put it on record that the state has to protect the social status and the social respectability of a person who is already going through a trauma of being misused, of being sexually assaulted. And on top of that, if it is revealed, obviously her existence, her trauma becomes double. So I think, again, as I said, I can go on repeating that it's a wonderful way that the Supreme Court has worded the judgment so that all categories of people, especially females, getting ill-treated in society in any aspect, whether it is forceful sex in a marriage, whether it is premarital rape, or whether it is a minor, they are all getting proper protection by the law that the state has to ensure for us. And it's a very positive step.
Do you think, Neera ji, that we are headed in a direction where perhaps marital rape will eventually be recognized by the Indian statute? Because the larger debate so far in the Indian context has been, and even, legal luminaries have argued, when they argue against marital rape being recognized by law, they say that in India marriage is a sacrament, as against the Western societies where marriage is a contract. So can you really bring down marital relationships to legalities, considering intimate partner violence is quite a reality and a painful one at that?
You see, when we talk of Indian marriage is a sacred act, and then we go down to ancient times where it was just the Saat Fera and everybody respected that relationship. But in today's commercialized society, in today's very, the society which is absolutely losing all respect for women, the husband-wife relationship has also come under tremendous changes. That the husband and wife are rarely treated as equals. So a husband today somehow treats the woman as a person whose body, whose everything a man has a right. So forceful sex, forcefully making a girl pregnant is actually a rape, and which is come now, and it is high time that the Supreme Court actually made marital rape a sort of an offense, because no man has a right to forcefully order his wife to have sex with him or to have a child. And this also happens in many cases when the women are not able to have a male child, so they go on and on forcing her to have children. She'll have 4, 5, 7 girls just because they're waiting for a boy. So that is one aspect. The other aspect is that she's not an object of pleasure. It's a sacred relationship for a sacred cause. And so it should not be forceful sex. And definitely we are heading towards that. And I'm sure with the progressive steps that already have taken yesterday, we are very close to the fact that we will be getting a written proper judgment on marital rape also.
The courts in India also, Neera ji, have struggled as far as the judicial thought on the exception, marital rape exception in IPC goes. But here we are yesterday that the Supreme Court is taking a very progressive U-turn on its own position, actually steering the judicial thought in the right direction.
Yes, because they are bringing back men to the sacredness of marriage. And sacredness also involves respect to each other, respect to the woman. As I said again, she is not an object of pleasure or your whims and fancies she has to run around. She is your equal partner, and so without consent, you cannot treat her as an equal partner.
Right, absolutely. And Supreme Court's words will keep ringing aloud in Indian society. Supreme Court yesterday said we would be remiss in not recognizing that intimate partner violence is the reality and can take the form of rape. And they actually said that ignoring marital rape in the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act actually means that you are compelling the woman to give a birth, even if she is a victim of rape and sexual assault within marriage. So look at the situation, look at the words, strong words used by the court.
Very strong words. And also, as I said, this marital rape is very important. At the same time, the rights of an unmarried woman. An unmarried woman has a right to live her life, has a right to sexual freedom, and that does not debar her from being an equal, respectable person in society. The more progressive judgments are coming. We are going back to that place where women were given all freedom and they were not ill-treated because of their freedom of expression or freedom of living the life they want to live.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, it is heartening that in February 2023, the Supreme Court will hear a bunch of petitions which have challenged the exception to marital rape in the Indian Penal Code. And you remember recently the Supreme Court has also asked the government to explain its position on this whole affair. Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, if I may indulge you on another very key point which the court has highlighted yesterday. The court has said that Indian divorce laws as they exist currently actually force couples to reveal and look for each other's faults. So what about the divorce laws?
No, even divorce laws need to come down to this, that there should be no negativity. If two people have decided to separate, then it should be a decision which will not bring in more negativities that you did this and you did this. What happens is a lot of nonsense comes out, defaming each other, and leads to nothing. So they should be having what we call is, negotiation outside, monitored under the independent body, where they decide on mutual consent. If there is too much of difference in terms of, I think the differences come basically because of the, financial or the money related, issues related to property or issues related to major differences in the family, status, etc. So I think in terms of divorce laws, the more we move towards mutual agree to disagree, that would give a more positiveness in society, and both the parties can live their life more happily rather than carry forward with all those negativities and make a tamasha of it in the court.
Right. Neera ji, thank you so much for your time. I will wind up by quoting the Supreme Court from yesterday's judgment, where the Apex Court has said the decision to have or not to have an abortion is born out of complicated life circumstances which only the woman can choose on her own terms without external influence. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
You were listening to a discussion on Supreme Court verdict on women's right to abortion, a boost to the rights of women. The participants were Neera Mishra, expert on women issues, and Aditi Tandon, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.